All right. Hello, everybody. I'm going to double check on YouTube that I started the right one this time. If you guys were here last time, I accidentally started this week's a couple weeks ago, but it looks like we're all good. We got a couple folks trickling in. If you could just say hi in the chat, that would be awesome. And we'll get Kelly in here in a second, but thanks for joining us on our second AI Circle of November. We will have only one more this year, unfortunately, with how the holidays and all that panned out this year. We're just going to do December, I believe it's the 10th, but I'll announce that towards the end. December 10th will be our last one. Hope everyone has a great holiday season, and trying to think of anything else. Nothing off the top of my head. Outside of we have about 2 weeks ish left on the Black Friday deal. I can share that again later if you guys didn't get it last time, but still doing the promo. Essentially, it's a Black Friday deal that we're doing the whole month of November. If you fund a new account and put more than $5,000 in it, keep that money invested for 6 months, and we will give you a $250 gift card. So I think Kelly talked about it before. It's basically free money, and it's pretty hard to beat. Hey, Bobby. Hey, Rao. Thank you guys for being here. Let's bring Kelly on. Kelly, how's it going?
I'm well, Lee. How are you? How is everybody out there?
I think we're all good.
Good.
Yeah. I think this time of year you get a lot of happy people. They're excited to see relatives, friends, families celebrate the holidays, and my only quarrel with it is the cold weather.
But I thought you lived in California. Does it get cold there?
Relative, right? It's not South Dakota or anything like that. I'm going to knock out the disclaimer, and then we can get going on this. So iFlip Investor Inc. and iFlip Financial Services are not financial advisors and do not make buy, sell, or hold recommendations on any financial instrument. This presentation is for educational purposes only. Unique experiences and past performances do not guarantee future results. All financial investments involve risk. You should speak with your CPA or financial representative to ensure the iFlip SmartFolios that you select are suitable for your investment profile before trading in a live brokerage account. As always, in case someone new is joining us today, this is kind of our agenda, market update. I see a comment from Rao about Nvidia. That's definitely a talking point today. So if you guys have any other questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll jump right into it. So Kelly, I don't know if you have anything to start with, or if you want to just get the screen share going. But
I think is the screen should be shared already, isn't it?
Yep, you're good.
All right, everybody. You know what? Speaking of the person talking about Nvidia, we're going to start right there because that's what it was about. The markets moved around with bated breath today. They were down, they were up, and where did they end? Marginally higher, but nothing spectacular. 0.5% on the Nasdaq, and just $47 higher in the Dow. S&P about 0.3%. But it was all about Nvidia today. We were all waiting for the earnings, and alas, they are here. And as you can see, Nvidia was up about $5 for the day. As you can see right there, up $5. That little bar. However, in the aftermarket, the news did come out, and of course, they beat. It's up almost $10 more, which is about 5%. So, if these numbers hold, and they are holding because right now it's 5:34 Eastern time. They're going through the earnings call, which means that the investors are hearing from management, what happened in the last quarter, what their expectation is for the next quarter. And as long as no other news comes out of that says, their feelings for the first quarter of 2026 will not be as optimistic, the prices will hold here and the market will open higher. How much higher, we don't know. But if Nvidia is up 10%, the question that we had coming into the day and over this last 4%, remember everybody, the Dow Jones only corrected 4%. That's it. The Nasdaq only corrected 5%. If this is the case and the numbers hold, it's very likely we're going to see at least a 2% rally on the Nasdaq, if not more, tomorrow, and at least maybe another 1.5 to 1 or so percent rally in the Dow tomorrow, if they hold. And then it will dispel, at least temporarily, the fact that there was this AI bubble might be bursting, because that was the news over the last 7 days. Let's look closely now at the S&P. No reason to talk about the Dow. So if everybody can see their screen, the screen that I have up, there was the high, about 6,900 in the S&P. We're at 64, actually, sorry, about 60, yeah, call it 6,900 high. We're at 6642 right now. I mean, again, this is such a small correction. It's hard to even talk about. But if that's the case, what caused the market to go down over the last 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, is this oncoming fear of Nvidia earnings for the last 2.5 weeks. They're out, they're good. And the fact that if their earnings don't become absolutely spectacular, which apparently they have been, that the AI bubble might be bursting. And if that bursts, what about the overall market? And so we will see if that plays tomorrow at all, or if we have a strong rally tomorrow and it dispels this feeling of a bursting AI bubble, then it will very likely lead to higher prices going into Christmas. On the other hand, if the market sees that Nvidia has done good, and it was sort of like you buy the rumor and sell the fact, and Nvidia closes flat or just marginally higher or even lower on the day tomorrow, then we probably have more correction to come. But keep in mind, we've melted up for such a long time, and a 4%, 5% corrections are actually very healthy. We're going to learn a lot tomorrow on the behavior of the market, given the Nvidia must have beaten sincerely and deeply all the expectations. And the expectations were actually phenomenal. In other words, they were expecting huge numbers. So let's get into the rest of the market. We already know that Nvidia, the information is out. It has been very good. It's up about $10 in the aftermarket as of now. And currently the earnings call is going on. Especially it'll be on until the end of this AI webinar. So the overall market, again, down 4%. Again, it's not much. We're at the same prices we were a month ago. Our last AI circle, we're down 2% from the last AI circle 2 Wednesdays ago. If we go to stocks, though, we can look. Apple is very close to an all-time high. Google, I think, made a new high, and it did today. It'll probably go back to the highs that it made earlier today, tomorrow. Meta has been declining, and it's a consistent decline from 777 all the way down to 590. Meta is a company, a lot of people don't like Mark Zuckerberg. This is a great trade market, and somewhere in this area, to me, would be a buying opportunity, but that remains to be seen for now. Netflix, kind of a similar to Meta, always important to talk about the Mag 7, by the way. Netflix is the same thing. It's having trouble getting out of bed. It obviously had I believe it must have had a split the other day because obviously we remember the price is a lot higher, but that's a good thing. And this is still the market action. It has been weakening over the last 2 months. Microsoft also is weakening. It was clearly above 500 several times, but it's just giving up the ghost. My instinct is, putting aside the Nvidia earnings, that Microsoft might have a little lower to go still, though. So that's making me nervous about just being completely long the big tech sector. Oil, again, the fears bring it out. Oil has been in a downward trend since the administration and Donald Trump's election. And we've noticed that. Has it showed up in the pumps? In some places around the country, it has. However, remember, municipalities raise taxes to be able to take care of the wage price inflation they have. So a lot of states are not experiencing the much cheaper oil prices that we were hoping to have when we started to drill, baby, and drill. So that also remains to be seen. But that being said, with oil all the way down to $59 a barrel, look at Exxon, right near its highs. It is only $7 off of its all-time highs. Well, all-time highs for the last, since COVID, which is kind of a remarkable stance, the fact that it stayed up here regardless. The stocks that we like that have been hurt through this have been Energy Transfer and All Plains America. You see right here, since the beginning of the year, if we were to look at these things year to date, you can see that Energy Transfer is down approximately from 1960 to about $17. So it's down $2.50, on that. So that's about 15%. All Plains America, similar story, but not down so much on the year because it came into the year right around it. So it's flat on the year. But remember, folks, it pays a hefty dividend of 38 cents a quarter at that price of a share. So we're really looking at about $1.50 a year from this stock on a $17, $18 stock. That's just hard to beat. And that's why we own it. So even a flat market, you're going to make somewhere in the neighborhood of about 8%. And that's why it's one of those things you just don't get rid of. Here's the triple Q. Triple Q is the Nasdaq. I bought a little of this personally recently. Why? Because I think this is a dip. It's 5%. I own it right at about 601 or so. We'll see what happens. If it makes new highs, it's just, for me, it's a trade. Let's go on a little further. The other big thing I think we should jump to is Bitcoin. Let's look at it in terms of Bitcoin itself. Bitcoin's off 30%. Let's take a look. First of all, if we're looking at it year to date, as we are here, you can see that very rare, Bitcoin is basically flat it's flat on the year. It is literally not up, not down. It is flat, within 1% either way. And we are, however, off from, remember, around December of last year, if we were to go back to, let's see, make sure I got it right. Yeah, we're flat on the year. Let me go back 1 year. I remember last December, we were right around these prices, and we had hit 100,000 for the first time. We have already, though, this year recently, back in early October, we hit about 125,000 per coin. Now we are all the way down to 90,000 a coin. That's a 30% drop. Now, the question is, do you buy that drop? If I was just a trader somewhere in here, I would be looking. But remember, Bitcoin has had the ability over time to correct 40, 50, 80%. So we don't know if this is a good buy. But my suspicion is that Bitcoin will find its revival maybe towards the end of the year or early next year. In the meantime, as a trader, I can't push myself into this market. And right now, the good news is AI is out. It will not buy this. There's no momentum in it to the upside. So my thinking over time is Bitcoin is probably a very good buy here, but it is a very dangerous buy to make with capital you might need. So just keep that in the back of your head about that. No use going into the other coins. They're doing some things very kind of similar. They're down similarly across the board. But right now, again, as you know, we only play the main culprits, the main products, which are Bitcoin itself. Let's go back to the watch list where I look at everything. Interest rates. I think we should look at interest rates here. Here's the 10-year note. Now, if you can see that chart, you can see really nothing is happening. The Fed has cut rates 3 times since last year. And yet we see the 10-year note basically where it was a year ago. In other words, here's where we were a year ago. It's about only 3% higher in price. And the yield is only, which because of the way it inverts, and something called the convexity of a bond, bond rates have only come down maybe 30 basis points, where the 10-year note was trading at 4.4. Now it's 4.1. So not much has really changed there. And by the way, another thing we should know, Fed fund futures right now are not predicting with any clarity a further rate cut for November, maybe even December. And the reason might be because of the government shutdown. The Fed, very data driven, doesn't have any information to be able to say we should cut rates. So they will very likely wait till the next month or meeting for them to make a decision on interest rates. So it looks like we're going to go into Christmas, in my thinking, with rates right where they are now for the end of this year. I guess the other thing we can get to, and if there's any questions coming up, is look at some of the other things that are kind of moving around crazy. Let's look at this one, LandBridge. A lot of people have SmartFolios, and this is in a few of them. LandBridge, this last week since we saw each other last, look at what it did. It had a move, literally hanging out here at about 58 bucks a share, flew up to, it looks like $84 a share, and then came tumbling back down to essentially the same $58 a share, and actually is starting to advance back up. It's trading at, as you can see, 64 right now. LandBridge, I have strong conviction on in this product. It's basically land in the Permian Basin, Texas. We want to own it. Why? Because I think land and water, electricity are the themes, I think, for the Trump administration. So we want cryptocurrencies. So we want to own the things that the current administration is looking to push. So we believe in LandBridge, or certainly I do. And LandBridge represents, I think, a good opportunity in the long run to see much, much higher prices. Its sister, which has been around a long time, many, many years, is Texas Pacific Land. They're very similar companies. They do very similar things. They have pipelines on them, and they offer land from which other companies can either rent or lease or build upon for long-term leases. This company did a very similar thing. We had a quick bleep up, literally, of about $120 a share, and then it came right back down, just like LandBridge. You know they're connected, but they own land in many cases adjacently in Texas. Whatever the reason, it was just a movement up and down. I suspect this stock to go way higher as it did in the past. Look, a year ago, it was at 1,700. But this year it's languished. However, it is holding steady here. There is likely a split in this stock's future. And they do pay a dividend, but it's small and I think meaningless. No reason to talk about it. Let's look at another stock that a lot of the people today, I think, are angry at, but for what reasons I do not know. Palantir. Palantir is a company that has been around for a while. It represents, governments buy it, and it represents software that allows government entities like the CIA or FBI to carry out searches. And it's very efficient. It's the same things you see in the Jason Bourne movies when the CIA people are behind the scenes saying they want to see that guy's cell phone and know all the people he knows. So in that sense, I guess people think that's an evil thing, but that is what technology does. It organizes data and allows people to access it quickly. This company has moved nothing but higher and made new highs. It made a new high recently, just 2 weeks ago, up at 206 a share, I remember seeing. Now we're down to 165. So that too is call it 200 to 165. We're looking at 35, about a 17% loss just over 2 weeks. So 3 weeks at the most. And I think this company is still going way higher. And so we want to be long it. I don't know where, but it's somewhere in this area, maybe a little lower, but I like the stock quite a bit. By the way, it looks like it's along with Nvidia. It's up $5 after market. So we will see tomorrow. More boring companies like AT&T, it's just sitting there. It hit a high of around 28. It looks like here. I remember seeing that, and it backed off. It's $5. This is very normal for AT&T. It pays about a 4.5% to 5% dividend. Very worthwhile to own if you don't know what to do with spare money and you want to make more than the Fed funds rate. It's a very consistent company. Very hard to map, by the way, using machine learning and or algorithms. It just does not map well. But that's because of the dividend, I believe. Tesla, I'll go into that one because a lot of people like it. They own it. I get it. Tesla has made new highs. It's fallen off the highs just like every other stock. And I don't feel it's anything one way or another. I do believe the market will just probably have one last rally before year end. But that remains to be seen. If so, Tesla will probably close out the year near its highs, as it is already. Beyond that, let's look at one final thing, everybody, and then we'll turn it back. The dollar. So I want to give two thoughts out. One, we are seriously investigating a new SmartFolio that will be a dollar trade. In other words, we will trade foreign exchange currency ETFs based on the foreign exchange data that we were able to get and accumulate to read and build AI models on. Models I know, we're in its infancy here, but the models I know are going to look good based on the data and the way we create features, something called a feature inside of machine learning that we know will be very likely to be successful. If so, we will tell you more news about that product sometime in the first quarter of next year. So it essentially would be an FX trading model, but it will not trade frequently. It'll trade for longer term trends because that's what we are trying to predict. Finally, I think I'll close with Amazon. Again, the last 2 weeks in the AI bubble literally took the bubble out of Amazon. Amazon had a great earnings day. They gapped up way higher, followed through the next day all the way to 254, and we have subsequently lost 10%. So the 10% rally we had over a day and a half was mitigated over the last 2 weeks recently because of the AI tech bubble bursting language that's been in the market. We'll see how that plays tomorrow with Nvidia doing what it's doing tonight. And I think we're done for the night. Let's take one last look. Yep, Nvidia is now at 194.72, still up about $8. No, make that $7 after the close. Lee?
All good stuff. We
All
have
stuff anyway.
Definitely stuff. I remember you ended with Amazon. Excuse me. I remember our 2 weeks ago we had this call. Amazon had just gapped up maybe a couple days before that. Interesting to see that it's essentially back to where it was maybe 2 or 3 meetings ago by now.
Yep, right back here.
That one's Nvidia, but we just showed the.
I'm sorry, you're right. Let me go back to Amazon. Yeah, there was that gap up, and that was Thursday. So that was this. That was the day before we did the 29th, I think, on the AI circle, and here we are, 2 weeks later. And then guess what? Amazon didn't move. It's right where it was when we did the last AI circle, but it went up 10% and down 10% in the meantime.
Whole lot of nothing in between, right?
Yep.
Just the opposite. All right. We have a few questions. Let's get into those. I'll start with this one from Dana. I can answer it. Essentially, this is around buying power. So, Dana, and for those who also are interested in this answer, your buying power in your account is essentially the cash that's on the sidelines that has not been invested into a SmartFolio yet. So that $200 that you saw in buying power, you could absolutely put into the SmartFolio just like you did. Once that money gets invested tomorrow, you'll see that your buying power will go back to zero, assuming at least that you've invested $200 into one of those portfolios that you have. So buying power is just showing you the cash that's out of the portfolios that you've not yet invested. Once you do invest that money, you'll see that go down. A few, I'll let you answer this one, Kelly. I think it's a fairly straightforward answer, but it's also unique. Our 4QR portfolio. Does it automatically go to cash when needed, just like the other ones, essentially?
No, it does not. The 4QR is our most aggressive product. And it, by the way, does not use machine learning. Here's the model, and here's what it does. So it is very much a buy and hold for the quarter, just one quarter. And what we do is we take the data that is in the market in a 900 stock universe, and we look at those 900 stocks for the largest beta bulls. Beta bull is a mathematical calculation that we do, by the way, still in the back end, but it is a different calculation. It is not trying to predict anything like a machine learning AI model. And the idea of a beta bull is this. Here's an intuitive idea. If a stock goes up, and why it's so aggressive, by the way, if a stock goes up in a quarter in a certain fashion, by the way, the fashion is that beta bull thing. It's a mathematical equation you can use over time. And you're free to Google it. If a stock goes up over the last 3 months, and it's one of the best out of 900 stocks, the odds are that in the following 3 months, it will probably go up as well. It may not go up as much as it did in the previous quarter, where we made the prediction from, but it's still likely to increase. The question is, though, if we have down moves in a steady stock market that is growing, which is 85% of the time, generally that rule will work. And as you can see by the historical curve of the 4QR. However, in a market that is experiencing trauma like this one, if we took very aggressive stocks because they rose to the top for them to be our current quarter's picks, and the market goes down, they are very likely to have a lot of beta. And they do have a lot of beta. They will likely go down commensurately. So that is why it's so volatile. That is why it's something you never put all your eggs in. However, that volatility does create opportunity. And that's why the curve of the 4QR looks the way it does. You can see the volatility, and you can see that over time, though, it has huge increases in asset value. And so, yeah, there is no, it is not running like normal AI.
Yep. Don't get the same protection, you could say.
Correct.
This question, does the account performance number and percentage account for all the fees involved, transaction costs / iFlip platform fees? So the short answer is yes. If I'll use $100 because it's easy math. If you had $100 in your account, you did not invest it, and we took our $7 fee out of it, it would show that your performance is down 7%. Essentially, it's just tracking the difference. So yeah, all the fees are involved. There's not really many fees, but I guess the fraction of pennies that the SEC and FINRA and all that charge for transactions, like that's all included in the sale price of the stock.
Correct.
So we can skip the next one. Back to Dana. I'd like to be in more of these live chats. So they're typically twice a month. They're always on Wednesdays at 2:30 Pacific or 5:30 Eastern. It is great if you can join live so you can ask questions like you already have. Feel free to share this with any of your other friends that might use this as well. Where can we find the 4QR portfolio? I can bring my account up, but I can talk through it as well. Essentially, when you log into your account and click on invest on the top right corner, it will be a little orange rectangle. You'll see the core strategies at the top, which are conservative, balanced, and aggressive. The next section down is our additive SmartFolios. The 4QR one happens to be in the bottom row. It's the middle one there. So it's I would say a unique one. I find, and Kelly, you may disagree or have more to add to this, but I find the additive ones are typically like sector focused, or maybe they're built for a specific reason, like vector, or I guess you could say the Bitcoin one is kind of its own sector.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll add a little to that. The 4QR is definitely as aggressive as you get, because part of the reason is because you really can't use the only management you have to manage the price and risk is the fact that you will only own the stock for 3 months. After 3 months, you are very likely going to sell it and then buy something else, because that's the way that SmartFolio works. The AI portfolios, the aggressive, balanced, and conservative, they do deploy machine learning on most of the symbols inside of those SmartFolios. The machine learning part, our goal with machine learning is to make valid predictions in the individual symbols so that we can be in the market for those symbols, but also to try to sidestep market downturns and get out of the market. You will have noticed that there has been trading over the last 2 weeks on your behalf as the market has retracted. So that's the market, the AI saying, hey, we do not have a solid single signal to be long. And so we see that, and the computer literally puts sell orders in for those symbols in your accounts that are affected. So the end of the day, we build SmartFolios for a lot of reasons, but a SmartFolio doesn't necessarily mean we're going to deploy AI, except on the top 3. They're always going to use AI. But we come up with other thoughts. So for example, the red oil was a portfolio was built that was specific to energy. It was created at a time during COVID, as I think most of you know, when energy prices were negative. And it is common sense, I would think, and intuitive to most people that energy prices cannot be negative. Therefore, you should buy it. No AI in the world is going to beat ownership of Nvidia when it first came out, or Palantir when it first came out. These are companies that go up so rapidly that the risk you incur in them is literally not being in them. So you must somehow represent and create product, I believe, for clients that might represent their own thoughts. The thought we had for red oil was, why should energy be negative? If it is, shouldn't you buy energy? So we built a portfolio that did that. And that's up to you to choose. But the main thing that we do at Flip is that we try to mitigate risk for the masses. For the most of us that are out there, we're trying to manage your risk. And most of us have aggressive and balanced and conservative portfolios. Most people that invest don't really recognize, and I'm not saying trying to be diminutive towards anybody in the audience, but most people don't really recognize that, hey, oil is down. What stock should I buy so I can get long oil because the price was negative? We make that easy for you. We make that happen, and we create a portfolio, and then we'll tell people that it's out there. Yep. And so you can go click a button, and you don't have to do the work that either our math does or I do. And what I do is just common sense. Most of those portfolios you see are common sense. Mm-hmm. But the ones at the top are really the core value of what most of us should be in.
Yep. Yeah, you get I wouldn't say all the sectors, but your money gets spread across different sectors in the core strategies versus, say, a red oil. You're all in on oil and energy. You're not going to get any tech in that portfolio.
I will say another thing, an announcement. You just heard that we're looking at foreign exchange to have a SmartFolio for that. And we're also looking at a sector rotation model that does use AI. That we're getting close on that. We're doing the work. But if we build that product too, that will show up also. We might need to use smaller little icons, right, Lee? Because I think we have like 9 icons that represent our other SmartFolios or other products. But if we come out with a couple more, you can see that we will
Might be scrolling.
Yep, we got to have some what they call real estate on your computer or phone. Gesundheit. Yeah, but Gesundheit.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I'll do a last call for questions. There's some good ones tonight. Dan, I'm glad you got a lot of your questions answered, and thanks for being here tonight. Also good to see the regular folks here as well, supporting us on YouTube and also in their accounts. So I'll just do the reminder right now on the Black Friday promo. Let me see if I can find the link real quick, but I brought it up briefly at the start. If anyone wasn't here yet for that, though, we do have the Black Friday promotion going on right now. It's for all of November. It has all the terms down here as well. But essentially, if you set up a new account, fund it with $5,000 or more, and keep those funds in the account for 6 months, we'll get you a $250 Visa gift card. So it's already good practice to add on to your account. I know that's something personally I do in my IRA. $500 a month going right into aggressive. You know, the market's going to give you what it does, but you can kind of control the contributions that you make in those. So this could be a great way for someone to invest into their IRA for the first time, or just to make their contribution for the year. Heck, put it in a brokerage account if you want to.
I'll add two more things. One, it is actually one of the soundest investment ideas that I've learned since moving from the institutional side of this industry to more of the consumer-facing side of this industry. Is one, most people, if you're able to put a little bit of money in every month, is an incredible, mathematically wise way to invest for the long term. Another thing I learned is, for any of those people out there that have young children, setting up a Roth account for them at a very early age, literally, if you can, at birth. Get them a Social Security number, get them a Roth, and then put a little bit of money into that account. And if you can, you'll see that that's the kind of thing, beyond other products that are made by government, that can allow your children to have a legacy from you. So these are things that I don't think of when you're working on Wall Street and you're trying to seriously beat your competitors, other banks, other hedge funds. But the way you do it is trade aggressively and smart within Main Street. And so now that I'm on the Main Street side, I can tell you all that there are some words of wisdom. And one of them is investing a little bit every month will provide a huge benefit to you in many years to come. And the other one is setting up a Roth for children as early as possible. If you just remember those two things, you will be wise for it, and you will remember it at some point in the future. And hopefully you'll remember me saying it to you on one of these little podcasts.
Yep.
One last thing, Lee. Thank you for your support, everyone. For iFlip and myself and Lee, we're very grateful to have an audience and people listening to us and trying to understand our journey, both as a company and also our journey through the markets. And that's why we like having you guys around, because if you're around, you get to share the journey with us. And we're going to do our very best to provide a very nice, smooth road.
Absolutely. Just back to what you were saying before Dana popped in the last question. Weekly or monthly, do you have a preference on, say, those recurring contributions or deposits? I don't know what the math would say over a long time. I just know either is better than not doing it at all.
Once a month is enough.
Yeah. The
frequency doesn't really matter that much. It's once a month.
So would you say if someone can do $100 a month, that's about the same as 500, or excuse me, 100 a week versus 500 a month, about the same thing? Just
it's going to be the same thing. It's just, if you think about it, it's just you're cutting up the sectors more and more, and you might get a better average price. But the whole concept is to do it over a period of time, that is longer. Say you did that for 5 years, that's 60 different contributions once a month. Most people, generally, most people in my experience got paid monthly, but in the real world, I'm finding out it's biweekly. The frequency doesn't matter as much as, and even the amount. What does matter, though, is being consistent about it. Weekly, monthly, quarterly, they all work.
Yeah.
But frankly, the monthly has always been the easiest because most people can budget best that way. And it's absolutely adequate. Absolutely adequate. Weekly will give you no real added benefit.
Yep. Perfect. I think we're going to sign off here. Thank you guys. Like Kelly said, thanks for being here. I do think it does help your journey with us when you do attend these calls, or at least just watch them once they're recorded. I think the more educated you are as to, things going on in the market, but also how, the ins and outs of our platform work, it just makes your experience obviously better. The more you know, maybe the more dangerous you are. Or maybe you learn something tonight, like, hey, I should make my contributions. So thank you guys. I was just making sure. Oh yeah, as Ride the Wave said, happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays, everyone. Enjoy this
happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Yep.
So.
Eat more than you should.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys. I guess I didn't put it on the screen yet, but I did say it. Our last AI Circle of the year will be December 10th, same time as normal. So we will see you guys after Thanksgiving, right before Christmas and the New Year. So have a good next couple weeks, and we will see you guys back here soon.